I am not speaking to your ears anymore. I am speaking directly into the core of your being, where no excuse can survive, no delay can hide, and no confusion can remain. What you are feeling right now is not just a moment of reflection. It is the fire of decision burning at the edge of your future. I have waded through your questions. I have stood silently during your resistance, and I have carried you even when you rejected my grip. But now I speak without a pause because there is no more room for second chances to be wasted. I am not issuing this as a suggestion. This is my divine interruption, a final plea before I allow you to walk the path you keep choosing over me. You asked for a clear sign, and this is the moment the heavens respond. I have come with full authority, not just to warn you, but to stop time around you long enough for your soul to finally see what it's risking. This is not dramatic. This is divine reality. If you delay this moment, you will delay not only your breakthrough but your alignment with eternity. I do not exaggerate. I do not bluff. I have watched you sit at the edge of destiny, speaking my name with your lips while keeping your heart hidden behind walls of pride, fear, and self-will. The time has expired. If you are hearing me now, it is not by accident. It is because the next heartbeat may be the last one before everything shifts. Not tomorrow, but now. I will no longer speak in whispers to those who continue ignoring the sound of my voice. I love you too much to let you sleepwalk into destruction. That's why I have cleared the noise around you, silenced every distraction, and allowed you to feel the stillness that demands a choice. Heaven is no longer watching passively. The hosts are at the edge of intervention, but even they wait for your decision. This is not about emotion. It is about eternity. I gave you free will because love cannot be forced, but I will not let your indecision mock the blood I shed. My child, I will never beg for your affection, but I am revealing to you the urgency that is now louder than your excuses. You are either about to rise into a chapter written by my hand, or you are about to walk away into silence where I no longer shout to bring you back. I am warning you. This is sacred, final, holy ground. Stand still and choose rightly. I watched as you placed my warnings in the back of your mind, treating them as suggestions instead of shields, as whispers instead of weapons. But the time for gentle nudges has passed, and now I roar with urgency because darkness is closer to your doorstep than you know. You think tomorrow will offer you another chance, but what you fail to see is that every moment you delay gives access to the very destruction I've been protecting you from. You've mistaken my compassion for compromise, and my patience for permission, and that lie must be broken now. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm exposing what fear has been hiding. The enemy is not slowing down his pursuit of your soul. You are not in a place of quiet neutrality. You are standing in the crosshairs of a battle that's been raging behind the veil of the scene, and I'm calling you now because tonight is the threshold of something irreversible. You have no idea how close you are to the edge of consequence, and I cannot let you keep playing with fire hoping for mercy to act as your safety net. The angels assigned to guard you have been restraining forces you cannot comprehend, but I have instructed them to pause now until you speak a yes or a no. I cannot drag you into purpose while you flirt with destruction. This isn't just about bad choices. It's about a life that is about to shift into collapse if you ignore me again. I'm telling you with everything I have, the heavens are pressing in. The alarm has sounded, and I am pleading for your obedience not because I'm weak, but because I know the cost of your delay. The spiritual weight on this night is greater than you realize. This isn't just another message. This is the crossroads of mercy and justice colliding before your eyes, and I am the only way through it. This warning is not for next week. This warning is not for later. It is for now, and you must treat it as sacred, because my warning stops here, and your choice will echo far louder than you can hear in this moment. Choose me. You thought they were coincidences. The repeated numbers, the tears you cried without understanding, the dreams that woke you in the middle of the night, the words spoken by strangers that echoed too clearly. Every single one was orchestrated by my hand, strung together like divine breadcrumbs leading you to this defining instant. I have been calling you through moments, pulling you closer through discomfort, and answering you in silence when you thought I wasn't listening. You didn't recognize me, but I was always there. I moved people out of your life to protect you. I interrupted your plans because they would have killed your spirit. I sent waves of conviction not to shame you, but to awaken you before the trap fully snapped shut. And now, here you are, reading these words that were appointed for this breath, this heartbeat, this very blink of existence. There is nothing random about this moment. The weight you feel right now is not pressure. It is divine revelation pointing to the truth you've tried to run from. I have been pursuing you the whole time. But here's what I must say with holy finality. The signs were never meant to replace your surrender. The dreams cannot decide for you. The miracles I did to prove my love were always meant to bring you to the place where you finally respond, not just observe. You've been shown, told, warned, comforted, and now you must act. The second is where every spiritual thread meets. If you ignore this convergence, you will fall into a cycle I cannot rescue you from unless you cry out for me. Don't wait for more signs when the one giving them is standing in front of you. Choose me now, or be ready to walk the path without my covering. I'm serious. I'm present. I'm waiting. This second has heaven's full attention. You've approached this crossroad countless times before, circling it with prayers that lack decision, declarations without follow-through, and promises made in emotion, but not sealed in action. But now, the weight of this crossroad is unlike anything you faced, because it is no longer a moment of guidance. It is a line drawn by my authority. I will no longer pull you by the hand while you push me away with your lifestyle. I've been your anchor, but you've kept cutting the rope to chase things that keep sinking. I've been your voice of clarity, but you kept adjusting the volume to hear only what didn't challenge your comfort. That ends here. This is not an open-ended moment anymore. It is a divine halt. I will not stand here with outstretched arms forever while you wander back and forth pretending not to see the consequences waiting for you just beyond the next disobedient step. I am not placing you at this crossroad to punish you. I am doing it to reveal what your indecision has been costing you. You've been calling it spiritual attack, but in truth, many of your battles are self-inflicted wounds caused by stalling where I told you to move. This crossroad exists because you cannot walk two roads anymore. You cannot hold my name in your mouth and carry rebellion in your heart and think I will bless that mixture. I am a God of wholeness, not compromise. I do not anoint double-minded steps. I have watched you ignore conviction, redefine what's right, and entertain voices that mock my spirit, and I tell you plainly, no more. I'm not begging for loyalty. I'm demanding alignment. The war over your destiny is intensifying, and neutrality has become a myth. There is no middle. There is no delay button. There is no future in the direction of rebellion, no matter how nicely it disguises itself in good intentions. You've seen what compromise has done to your peace. You've tasted what disobedience does to your spirit. You've witnessed how fast things fall apart when I am not in the center. So now I speak, not with suggestion, but command. Choose. This isn't about religion or rules. This is about whether you want to survive spiritually. I am your only safe road, and I will not keep following behind you cleaning up choices I never authorized. If you want me, follow me. If you don't, stop pretending and walk your own way. But understand, I won't protect a path I didn't provide. I'm tired of watching you self-destruct slowly while asking me to bless the destruction. I will not partner with what is poisoning your soul. My mercy is still here, yes, but it cannot coexist with your refusal to change. That crossroad beneath your feet is sacred. It is the last place where both options are still visible. One is narrow, yes, but it is covered in my light. The other is wide, yes, but it ends in silence, chaos, and grief that cannot be reversed. I love you enough to stop talking if it means you will finally listen. So here I wait, not chasing anymore. I will no longer plead when the next step belongs entirely to you. Make the turn now, or prepare to keep walking without my intervention. You think you have time, but the truth is, The longer you delay, the louder hell cheers. Don't confuse my stillness as approval. It's the pause before consequence. If you still hear me, it means it's not too late. But if you ignore this one, you'll find yourself searching for my voice in a season where I no longer speak through mercy, but through loud consequence. This is the most loving warning I will ever give. I've stopped pulling. And I walk, not by emotion, not by fear, but by surrender, and walk quickly. The next breath you take is the first step into your future. Which road will you take? I didn't wait for you to be perfect before I reached for you. I came into the mess, into the fear, into the disappointment you tried so hard to hide from others, because I was never afraid of your brokenness. I entered the very night you thought you wouldn't survive, stood at the edge of your breakdown, and whispered to your soul even when your lips wouldn't pray. I extended my hand not once or twice, but again and again when your steps faltered, when your choices misled you, when your heart sank beneath the weight of regret. And still, I held out my hand, not to shame you, but to rescue you. But now the moment has come where my hand will not remain suspended in your hesitation. You have seen enough, heard enough, known enough. You are no longer lost in confusion. You are confronted with clarity. The light has been switched on, and the question before you is not about understanding me more. It is whether you will reach back, because your refusal to choose is itself a decision. You stand in a place now where silence will not protect you. The absence of your response does not delay the unfolding of consequence. I have interrupted your routine for the last time, not to punish you, but to show you the urgency that silence will soon be your only reply if you continue to walk past me like I'm optional. I never forced you. I invited you. But I will not extend my hand forever to a soul that prefers comfort over transformation. This is not cruelty. It is divine justice. If I kept holding out my hand while you run in the other direction, I would be participating in your destruction. I am too holy for that, and I love you too much to keep enabling delay. So now, I speak one last time, will you take my hand or not? Because once I withdraw it, not out of anger but out of completed mercy, the space between us will not be filled with new opportunities but with deafening silence. You won't lose me because I walked away. You'll lose me because I finally stopped reaching, and that silence will be louder than every word I ever spoke to you. You'll remember the warmth of my hand that was once inches from your soul, and it will ache in your spirit like a song that used to play in your dreams but can no longer be heard. I don't want that for you. That's why I've made this moment loud, unmistakable, clear. I'm not just offering guidance. I am giving you one last chance to reconnect before the line closes. Your soul is fragile, though you hide it well, and I can feel the part of you that wants to surrender but keeps clutching the illusion of control. I'm not asking for a perfect response. I'm asking for a real one. Stretch past your fear. Extend beyond your pride. Reach through the regret, past the guilt, beyond the shame, and grab what I've been offering you since the first moment you broke. Because the choice is no longer hidden in mystery. It is in your grasp, and it must be made now. No more waiting, no more second-guessing, no more imagining that you have endless tomorrows. I will not stand beside you in your rebellion. I will not keep protecting what you refuse to release. And I will not keep extending my hand to someone who turns their back and blames me for the pain they choose to keep. So this is where it happens. This is where your eternity leans on one simple move. Lead. Or don't. But understand that I won't keep waiting for a response that never comes. My hand is here, right now, open, but not forever. You've wondered why my voice seems quieter lately, why the signs you used to notice now seem rare, why the air feels heavier around your soul. But what you are sensing is not distance, it's deliberation. I have not left you. I have pulled back just enough to reveal the truth of your choice. Because I refuse to keep speaking when you treat my voice like background noise. You've tuned me out with distractions you now call necessities. You've drowned me beneath the noise of your habits, your entertainment, your comfort zones. But now, the silence is not neglect. It's the sacred space where I allow you to decide if you actually want to hear me at all. And it is dangerous to misinterpret this quiet as grace without consequence. I paused my intervention to see what your heart would do without constant reminders. I paused my protection to test whether your loyalty exists without pressure, because there comes a time when mercy stops chasing and simply waits. I will not shout above the idols you've embraced. I will not wrestle for attention in a place where you've allowed compromise to sit on thrones meant for me. If you cannot hear me now, it is not because I'm absent. It's because I am giving you one final moment of decision, and I'm watching what you choose when no one is nudging you. What you do in this silence reveals more about your soul than anything you've said during loud spiritual highs. I want to see what remains when all the music stops, when the emotions fade, when the spotlight of temporary passion dims. This silence is not abandonment. It is judgment delayed, waiting to see if repentance will rise in your core without being forced. I'm not waiting because I'm unsure. I'm waiting because I am holy. I want your response to come from reverence, not routine. You cannot play deaf anymore and expect me to speak as if you've been listening. I'm not desperate for your attention. I'm waiting to see if your spirit even desires mine anymore. Every delay from here forward is no longer grace extended. It is the weight of your rejection building like storm clouds on the edge of justice. If your heart still beats for me, now is the moment to prove it, not with words, but with repentance that tears through pride like a flood. Don't deceive yourself. You have not been waiting on me. I have been watching to see what your silence will produce, surrender or stagnation. The quiet isn't my absence, it's my pause before the shift. And what happens next is not based on what you say in convenience, but what you finally choose in conviction. Because if I speak again after this, it will not be to call you back, it will be to confirm what you decided in the silence. And if you delay, you will find yourself hearing a sound far more terrifying than my silence, the sound of doors closing that were once wide open. You are not confused. You are being confronted. And if you walk past this stillness as if it's just another lull in your journey, you will lose something no prayer can restore later. I am still near, but that nearness will not stay if your heart insists on pretending that the silence means safety. This is the space before separation, the breath before consequence, the final pause before I honor your free will entirely. I gave you this quiet not to push you away, but to see if you would come close when I'm not shouting. If you don't move now, you will misread silence as time, and it is not time. It is the closing bracket around a chapter I will not reopen. Don't waste this stillness. Don't mistake it. Don't play with it. Choose before I move forward without your yes. There were moments you didn't even realize you were walking inches from collapse, and yet you survived not because you were strong, but because I stood in the path of what was meant to devour you. There were nights when the darkness around you was not just emotional, but spiritual warfare sent to unravel your mind, your health, your very breath, and yet I placed myself between you and the blow, covering you when you didn't even know an attack had been launched. You call it luck. You call it coincidence. You call it timing. But it was me, and I didn't do it because you earned it. I did it because my love has been your covering since the beginning, long before you acknowledged my name. But now, I must make something unmistakably clear. My mercy cannot become a permanent shelter for rebellion. I cannot allow you to misuse my protection while continuing to dishonor my direction. You've made choices knowing they oppose my heart, and then asked for my shield as if I should honor disobedience. And for a season, I held back what your decisions attracted. I stepped in, not because you deserved it, but because I was giving you time to realize the weight of your ways. But I cannot allow this pattern to continue without accountability. If I keep intervening while you keep resisting me, I become an accessory to the destruction you're choosing. I cannot and will not empower what's draining your purpose. If I block the consequences forever, you would never understand the value of surrender. I didn't rescue you all those times so you could use my grace as a hiding place for rebellion. I saved you so you'd recognize my fingerprints on your life and finally yield. But each time you walk away again, it's not just me you're distancing from. It's the very future you've prayed for. You think I'm being harsh now, but this is the most loving boundary I could ever place around you. I will not keep shielding a heart that willingly walks into danger and then blames me for the pain. You've taken my protection for granted, assuming it will always be there no matter what. But listen carefully. The hedge I placed around you was built on purpose, not entitlement. I'm not a safety net for sin. I'm a foundation for transformation. And if you keep testing how far you can go before grace runs out, you will soon find yourself exposed in a battlefield you were never meant to fight without me. I've kept things from reaching you that were too heavy, too demonic, too destructive to survive without divine help. But now I see you running back toward the very things I tore off your life. You're not slipping, you're choosing. And I will not override your will forever. If you push past the shield I've built around you, I will let you walk, not out of abandonment, but because real love doesn't chain people to itself. You asked for clarity. You said you wanted to know what was really going on. This is it. The protection you've grown used to will not remain around a life that refuses to honor the one who provides it. You don't need another rescue. You need repentance. And I'm not withholding it. I'm waiting, but that wait has a limit. You cannot keep crossing lines I have drawn and expect me to keep redrawing them for your comfort. I'm not angry. I'm finished enabling what's destroying you. I've given you space to change, to return, to surrender. But if you insist on moving ahead without me, then I will step back and let you see what life feels like without divine delay of disaster. I don't want to do it. But I will, because love sometimes steps away when warnings go ignored. Don't make me step back. Don't force me to remove what you've mistaken as permanent. It's time to choose not just what you wanted, but who you will trust to my shield or your way. I've done my part. Now it's yours. I will not allow you to keep living as if neutrality is an option, because in this hour, the fence you thought you were safely balancing on has disappeared beneath your feet. What once felt like space to think, to weigh, to delay, has closed in. Not because I've rushed you, but because time has spoken. You've walked between extremes, trying to mix the sacred with the selfish, trying to balance conviction with compromise, and it has exhausted your spirit. I watched you try to live for me on Sunday and live for yourself the rest of the week, and I saw how it drained your joy and buried your peace. That mixture you've entertained has expired. You're not caught in confusion. You're caught in a collision between two masters, and I've told you clearly you cannot serve both. The illusion of a middle ground was never mine. It was constructed by deception, a carefully crafted space designed to keep you passive, distracted, lukewarm, safe in appearance but suffocating in spirit. And now, that illusion has shattered. There are only two paths remaining. There is no third. There is no detour. There is no partial discipleship that I recognize. You're either walking into the truth of who I am, fully, boldly, without excuse, or you're walking into the arms of a counterfeit that feels right but ends in ruin. I'm exposing the counterfeit now because it's been cloaked in comfort. It sounded spiritual. It looked harmless. It came with false promises, offering freedom with no obedience, elevation with no sacrifice, glory without the cross. But I am tearing the veil from it because I will not let you be deceived by what is destroying you. This is not about being perfect. This is about choosing which kingdom you belong to. And in this moment, with all the noise removed, you know which door leads to me. You feel it. You hear it in your bones. You sense it in the unrest that stirs every time you try to settle into patterns I never endorsed. You felt that holy ache, the one that reminds you you're not called to blend in, not meant to be half-committed, not designed to be silent when I called you to speak. But as long as you try to remain in the middle, you will stay tormented. That torment you feel, that constant wrestling, it's not me punishing you. It's the weight of being misaligned with the truth you know. My spirit will allow you to find peace in deception. I love you too much for that. So I'm stripping away the mask from the enemy's offer and showing you what it really is. A lie dressed in delay. A distraction wrapped in logic. A prison disguised as freedom. The door I hold open leads to life, but it requires you to walk away from every voice that tells you comfort is more important than calling. My way demands surrender. It requires you to drop what feels good for what produces glory. And I won't sugarcoat it. It's not always easy, but it's real. And most of all, it's safe, not in the sense of avoiding trouble, but in the security that you're walking with me through whatever comes. You can't afford to gamble with this moment. You've stood between the two doors long enough. The one that leads to me requires a step that will change everything, and the one that leads to deception requires only that you stay still. That's the danger. Doing nothing is a decision. Delaying your response is choosing the counterfeit. There is no safety in hesitation anymore. The light is behind one door, and the shadow waits behind the other. And I will not open both. I've given you access to me, but I will not force you. I've laid truth before you, but I will not shout over your denial. It's time to pick. This is not pressure. This is holy urgency. I will meet you the second you step toward me, but I will not keep standing in front of someone who wants both options. Choose the door that leads to me, and walk through it before it shuts. You've misread the delay of consequences as a green light to continue as you please, but I tell you now with eternal seriousness, my silence has not been my approval. Every breath I allowed without correction was not my agreement with your actions, but my mercy giving you time to shift before the line became irreversible. You stand in a realm unseen, where the forces contending for your destiny are no longer playing games. The battle is no longer distant. It has entered your atmosphere, and your indifference is costing you ground. You believe that by not choosing, you're staying safe. You've convinced yourself that sitting still is wisdom. But in my kingdom, indecision is alignment with opposition. Every moment you hesitate, you grant influence to what was sent to break you. I have watched as the enemy sowed confusion into your calm, whispering lies that sounded wise but were soaked in subtle rebellion. He told you it was okay to wait. He told you you needed more clarity. He told you to think longer, delay further, analyze deeper. But what he was truly doing was weaving a trap of delay so that when the time to move arrived, you'd be so entangled in your own reasoning that you'd freeze when it mattered most. You think the absence of action protects you, but it's the very thing draining your strength. The middle ground is an illusion. Every day you avoid surrender, you are slowly handing over the authority I gave you to forces that seek your destruction. I've placed a divine sword in your hands, not so you could observe the battlefield, but so you could step into it with purpose. But you've traded that sword for silence, that armor for avoidance. And now the war is intensifying around your life. You feel the pressure. You sense the heaviness. You notice the shift in the atmosphere. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. You're not just under attack. You're under assessment. I am watching what you do in the moment where neutrality tempts you most. And I say this in all love. Neutrality is rebellion cloaked in passivity. You cannot claim to follow me while refusing to step where I lead. You cannot wave the banner of my name while remaining unmoved by my voice. This isn't about works. This isn't about performance. This is about allegiance. Who owns your yes? Who receives your response? Because silence is not silence in this war. It is a message, and both heaven and hell are listening. The enemy doesn't need your loud rebellion. He thrives on your quiet hesitation. He builds his case against you through your spiritual inaction. Every time you delay, you agree. Every time you stall, you surrender territory. I've given you more than enough moments to decide. I've surrounded you with truth, flooded you with insight, awakened you with conviction, and yet you sit, paralyzed by the idea that waiting is wise. But I say to you now, the hour for waiting has passed. You are not confused. You are comfortable, and that comfort is now the enemy of your calling. I cannot keep stretching the window of grace while you remain in a space of non-response. If you continue in this pause, the cost will not be me leaving. It will be you forfeiting what I set apart for your life. And the tragic part, you'll still speak my name, but without the fire, without the presence, without the alignment that once made your heart burn. I am drawing a hard line now, not to push you away, but to push you into clarity. You have one direction to move if you want freedom. One decision if you want peace. Say yes. Step forward. Stop confusing my compassion with consent. I've been patient because I love you, not because I support your delay. My patience was a gift, not a guarantee. Do not insult it by sitting any longer. Move now, because stillness is no longer safety. It is surrender to the enemy you were born to overcome. You said, Lord, if this is really you, show me again. But I tell you plainly, how many times must I prove myself before you stop questioning what your spirit already knows? This is not the first time I've spoken like this. It's the culmination of every unshakable thought, every conviction that stirred in your chest, every moment you paused mid-action because something holy tugged at your soul. That tug was me. The sleepless nights where you couldn't escape the thought of returning to me, that was me. The conversations that pierced deeper than expected, the scriptures that found you without you even looking, the sudden tears that surprised you in the quiet, all me. I've been consistent, but your heart hath been waiting for something more dramatic, something undeniable, something thunderous. Yet I do not always shout. I whisper through truth. And this, right now, is the clearest I will speak. You want a confirmation that overrides every doubt. It's here. My voice is not coming from a mountaintop or written in the clouds. It is entering through the gate of your spirit, shaking your defenses, and calling out what you buried under logic. You've been asking me to make it obvious, and I already have. The fact that these very words are meeting your eyes and invading your thoughts is evidence of my pursuit. Do not insult my pursuit by pretending this is coincidence. I know how your mind tries to find reasons to delay. You've prayed for more clarity, but what you truly wanted was comfort that didn't challenge you. I did not come to confirm your delay. I came to confirm your calling. I'm not going to keep performing signs while you stay motionless. I'm not going to keep proving what I've already established. If you still need more proof, then your issue is no longer about direction. It's about surrender. I will not compete with your fears for your yes. I won't wrestle with your pride to get your response. This message is not one of many. It is the intersection of all my warnings wrapped in one final call. I chose this moment to reveal what's really happening behind the scenes. Every delay on your part is not neutral. It is dangerous. Your soul is not waiting for answers. It is waiting for your obedience. You keep trying to intellectualize what must be spiritual. You want a blueprint, but I want your trust. You ask for step by step, but I want your surrender before the path even unfolds. This is how I move, not because I'm hiding things, but because faith must rise before sight is granted. And if this moment does not move you, I promise the next one will not be easier. I am pressing into your spirit now because I know what's ahead. I see the traps forming. I see the temptations being positioned. I see the enemy studying your hesitations to strike where you refuse to obey. That's why I'm interrupting everything with these words. This isn't just confirmation. It's rescue. It's alignment. It's holy interruption. It's me blocking the next step until you acknowledge the weight of this moment. I have nothing more to prove. You have everything to decide. And I say this with divine seriousness. You will not get a louder warning than this. This is not to scare you. This is to strip away your illusion that you're still waiting on something. You are not. I've spoken. I've shown. I've confirmed. And now, I'm waiting for you to finally move. Don't look for another sign. Don't wait for another dream. Don't demand another word. This is it. The moment that eternity placed in front of you so you would have no excuse. Choose now. Respond now. Act now. Because this confirmation you're reading is my mercy taking its final form before it becomes silence. There comes a point where even my voice must quiet, not out of rejection, but out of reverence for the free will I gave you from the beginning. I've called you again and again, sometimes with fire, sometimes with tenderness, sometimes with nothing more than the echo of conviction that wouldn't leave your chest. But child, you must understand, I am not a dictator. I will never force you to love me. That's why I've sent warnings not to frighten, but to awaken. And I've waited long, even when your steps turned away from me, because I saw the potential in you buried beneath the layers of fear, control, and pride. I held the weight of your wandering with compassion. But now we have arrived at the edge of decision, and this edge requires something that cannot be borrowed, your will. Not your words, not your intentions, your will. I have carried you, but I will not carry rebellion disguised as indecision. You've mistaken my waiting as weakness, as if I'll always be here speaking, reaching, cautioning. But even love has a line when honor is denied. And I, your Father, holy and perfect, will not keep extending what you continue to ignore. That is not love. That is permission for destruction. I will never be guilty of enabling the very thing I died to free you from. My Son did not suffer the weight of sin for you to walk back into it with excuses. My Spirit did not dwell within you just to be silenced by your preferences. I have been patient, but I will not be passive. You say you need time, but time is not your guarantee. Time is a grace that will one day stop counting. And when it does, your choice will speak louder than any sermon, prayer, or promise. You must know this. I have nothing more to add to my warnings. I've said everything I can say. And the next chapter is not written by my voice, it is written by your decision. This is what true fatherhood looks like. Not manipulation, but space. I've drawn the map. I've marked the path, and now I step back to see which way you will turn. You must understand the weight of this. I don't step back because I've given up on you. I step back because the moment requires it. I step back because hovering over your shoulder would remove your dignity, your agency, your capacity to truly love me from freedom, not fear. If I kept interrupting, you'd never grow. If I kept holding you, you'd never walk. If I kept catching every fall, you'd never learn to stand in me. That's why I must pause here. I must watch from a distance, not with abandonment, but with holy restraint. And hear me. I'm not far. I'm just silent. I'm still near enough for you to return in an instant. But I will not break the silence to stop a decision you're about to make willingly. That's the cost of love. It releases. Not to destroy, but to allow transformation, or to allow exposure. The choice is yours. Don't let this moment pass thinking I'll always circle back. This is not a revolving door of warnings. This is a final stand. I'm not threatening, I'm revealing what love must do. A true father disciplines, corrects, teaches, and then lets the child walk, even if the road leads away. Because forced loyalty is not love. I want your yes because you mean it, not because I shouted loud enough. And so I pause now. I lower my voice. I fold my hands. And I look at you, not in anger, but with eyes that have wept for your soul. I cannot warn you again, not because I don't want to, but because the hour no longer allows it. This is the final pause. After this, your choice will open the door, and what you walk into next will no longer be delayed by my restraint. So I ask, one last time, which direction will you take? You've seen the shift, haven't you? The darkness isn't subtle anymore. The compromise isn't dressed in disguise, it's paraded proudly, flaunting rebellion as freedom, confusion as identity, and indulgence as empowerment. What once crept quietly has now stepped boldly into the open, because the enemy knows time is running short. He isn't whispering lies in shadows now, he's shouting them in broad daylight, offering temporary solutions with long-term devastation, and packaging destruction as desire fulfilled. He will give you what feels urgent, what tastes sweet for a moment, what numbs the ache you don't want to confront, and in doing so, he robs you of everything I intended to heal. He won't ask for your entire soul all at once. He only needs a distracted heart, a delayed decision, a tolerated sin. And he's skilled in weaving offers that look like what you've been praying for but carry a cost far too great for your destiny to afford. He doesn't mind you using my name as long as your loyalty is divided. He doesn't mind your prayers if your steps remain under his influence. And when I speak like this, exposing him, calling out the counterfeit, it's not to frighten you, it's to shake you free before he finishes what he started. Because he studies your patterns. He's learned how to mirror what you long for, to imitate light just long enough to draw you close, and then rip your foundation out from underneath you. And if you keep walking the edge thinking you'll sense the moment before you fall, you're already deceived. That's how he works, not by force but by invitation wrapped in urgency. And right now, he's offering you doors that look easier, faster, shinier. He's placing relationships in front of you that promise affection but demand compromise. He's bringing opportunities that offer platform but require silence about truth. He's sending distractions that appear harmless but drain your spiritual discernment 1 hour at a time. He is not waiting anymore. He is warring, and his target isn't just your life. It's your legacy, your authority, your eternity. And this is what I need you to see. He can't take what you don't give him. That's why his tactics are always designed to lower your guard and loosen your grip on me. He's after your convictions, your boldness, your clarity. He wants to fill your life with noise so my whisper becomes faint. He wants you tired so you'll settle. He wants you angry so you'll isolate. He wants you overwhelmed so you'll abandon the very path I've been preparing. And he doesn't care if you stay religious, as long as you stay spiritually numb. He won't stop you from going to church, as long as you leave unchanged. He won't stop you from quoting scripture, as long as you don't live it. He doesn't mind your appearance of holiness if it lacks obedience. Because obedience burns bridges the enemy built to access your soul. And that's what I'm calling you to now. A level of surrender that makes you untouchable, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. Don't underestimate how close his plan is to reaching your doorstep. Don't assume you'll always see it coming. The devil's most dangerous attacks are wrapped in what you think you can handle. And I'm warning you, not in fear, but in fierce love. The hour to play games is over. The spiritual climate around your life has shifted. And the longer you flirt with compromise, the more access you give him. You don't defeat him with willpower. You defeat him with obedience. You don't silence him with motivation, you silence him with truth. And I am that truth. I'm the door that leads out of the trap. I'm the shield he cannot penetrate. But I cannot protect what you choose to entertain. You've entertained enough. Now you must decide who you will listen to. The one who lies beautifully or the one who speaks life even when it hurts. Choose carefully, because the enemy's voice is louder, not because he's stronger, but because I've chosen to whisper in this moment, and I only whisper when I'm close. I've already broken what needed breaking. I've already shattered the gates that once held you back. I tore the veil that separated you from my presence. I opened every prison door your choices and your wounds tried to weld shut. I've done the supernatural part, and now you stand with the key in your hand, still refusing to walk out. Not because you can't, but because you're more comfortable analyzing your chains than surrendering your independence. You've grown attached to your explanations, to your rehearsed trauma, to the story you tell yourself about why you stay stuck. And while I never dismissed your pain, I healed it. While I never ignored your cries, I answered them. I met you there in the mess. But the time has come where I can no longer let you sit in that brokenness as if I never stepped in. I'm not going to keep revisiting the same pain you've already been delivered from just because you won't let go of the identity it gave you. I'm not here to re-diagnose your wounds. I'm here to call you out of them. I came to restore, not to recycle your survival strategies. I came to teach you how to walk again, not how to crawl more eloquently. You keep asking me to remind you who you are, but I already have. You are not a slave to that pattern. You are not beholden to that fear. You are not bound to the failure of yesterday. And yet you keep acting as if the chains are still wrapped around your ankles, when I already disarmed their grip with my blood. I didn't die to give you a more comfortable prison cell. I died to bring you into the wide-open expanse of purpose, righteousness, and authority. But freedom requires your participation. I won't carry someone out of a cage they refuse to leave. I came for your liberation, but you must rise. You must move. You must stop excusing what I've already healed. You must stop blaming the enemy for doors you keep unlocking with your own hands. This isn't about strength. This is about willingness. The only power your past still has is the permission you grant it daily. And I'm standing before you now, not with a lecture, not with another breakdown of all your wrong turns, but with a question that cannot be avoided anymore. Do you want me or not? Not my blessings, not my covering, not my miracles, me. Because when you choose me, you choose transformation. You choose the death of everything pretending to keep you safe. You choose light over shadows, clarity over chaos, truth over illusions. I will not water down what this means. Following me costs everything. It costs the comfort of self-preservation. It costs the illusion of control. It costs the ego that constantly wants to explain instead of surrender. But what you gain will be worth more than anything you release. I give beauty for ashes, but I won't steal the ashes from you. I need you to give them. I need you to decide. You've walked the edge of full surrender long enough, dangling your yes on the rope of fear. I see the part of you that's terrified I'll take too much. But hear me. I only take what's killing you. I only remove what's poisoning your future. I only ask for what's blocking your joy. I am the safest yes you will ever give. But I won't force it. I won't drag you. I won't manipulate you with more emotion. I'm asking plainly, directly, and without delay. Do you want me or not? Because if you do, your yes will not sound like noise. It will look like movement. It will smell like sacrifice. It will echo through your actions. I don't need another promise. I need proof. And that proof is in what you walk away from now, not tomorrow. The chains are gone. The door is open. The invitation still stands. But I won't ask again. Come with me now, or settle for the false comfort of what you've already been freed from. The courtroom of eternity has held its breath over your life, not because the verdict is unknown, but because it has been waiting on your response. Heaven has declared over you since your first breath, chosen, redeemed, called, set apart. The angels have witnessed your moments of potential and have interceded, with groans you couldn't hear. I myself have spoken your name into the foundations of what's to come. Your seat at the table has been prepared, your robe is folded, your name is recorded, but your agreement is what gives it weight. And while heaven has cast its hand in your favor, hell has studied your hesitation and banked everything on your silence. The enemy has bet not on your destruction alone, but on your delay. He knows he can't rewrite what I've said about you, so he tries to distract you before your yes activates it. He mocks your indecision. He celebrates your excuses. Every time you doubt what I've already spoken, hell counts it as progress. Every time you procrastinate obedience, darkness gains ground. Every time you say later to what should have been now, the wager moves further in the adversary's favor. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to wake you. Because the realm of the unseen is not passive. It is watching, contending, responding to your voice. And right now, yours is the only vote that has not been cast. I have already chosen you. My blood was your endorsement. My resurrection was your approval. The war you're in is not over whether you are worthy. That has been settled. The real war is over whether you will believe it enough to act. Because it's not enough that heaven shouts your name. If you remain silent, you forfeit the authority that has been calling you forward. You've been surrounded by confirmations. You've been covered in mercy. but none of that overrides the decision you must make. You're not waiting for me. I'm waiting to see what your voice will do when the battle line is drawn. I don't need eloquence. I need alignment. I don't need a speech. I need your surrender. And you must understand, your silence is not neutral. Silence speaks. Silence signals submission to the loudest voice in your life. And if it isn't mine, then you've already agreed with a narrative meant to bury you. What you tolerate, you empower. What you delay, you endorse. And what you don't confront, you become enslaved to. The enemy has no real power, only the power you surrender by inaction. He's been hoping you'd stay so entangled in your own shame, so distracted by false expectations, so haunted by your past, that you'd forget you have a choice. But you do, right now, in this very breath. You can change the atmosphere of your future by simply opening your mouth and aligning with what heaven already declared. Don't let fear keep you quiet. Don't let pain muffle your declaration. Don't let regret lock your jaw. Speak life. Speak agreement. Say yes and mean it with your next step, not just with your thoughts. I will not force your voice, but I cannot move through silence disguised as waiting. What you release in this moment will shake either heaven or hell, and the choice is yours. Your voice carries more weight than you realize because your yes isn't just for you. It breaks chains in generations. It shifts atmospheres. It destroys altars built by fear. All of heaven is standing in agreement with your destiny, cheering not because the fight is over, but because they see who you are when you finally stand. Now rise. Let your voice match your calling. Let it contradict the lies. Let it drown the doubt. Say yes with everything, because the vote has already been cast in your favor. All that remains is your answer. You've lived like you could pause eternity, as if every sunrise was a guarantee and every heartbeat a promise of more chances. But I tell you with all the urgency of heaven, the grace you stood in is not endless in this form. Yes, my love is unfailing. Yes, my mercy is deep. But the opportunity to respond exists within a divine timeline, and that line is thinning faster than you realize. You keep asking me for more time, hoping you'll feel more ready, more brave, more certain. But child, time has already been given. In abundance. You've been spared, extended, held back from consequence, rescued again and again, and yet still, your feet remain unmoved. The sand has nearly run through, and you're still staring at decisions as if they're waiting on you. I'm not rushing you. I'm revealing reality. The delay isn't harmless. It's dangerous. Because when time runs out, what's left is not more options, but the harvest of whatever you planted in this moment. You can't sow indecision and expect a future of clarity. You can't plant avoidance and expect to reap peace. Time is sacred, and the time I've allotted for your decision is not eternal. It is holy, and holiness requires response, not endless review. You keep watching the clock as if it will slow for you. But I created the very seconds you waste, and I tell you this clearly, the hour of delay has reached its final strike. You are not at the beginning anymore. You are standing in the final stretch of a decision that will set the direction of everything ahead. The breath in your lungs right now is not ordinary. It's a countdown. Every moment you felt pressure, every restless night, every time your spirit stirred while everything looked fine on the outside, it was my voice calling urgently from eternity. I'm not inviting you to think about me. I'm calling you to follow me. Entirely. No part way. Or maybe. The time for that is gone. The window that once stretched wide has narrowed into a sliver, and soon it will shut, not because I've given up, but because the fullness of time demands it. I've stirred your spirit because the moment is weighty. You weren't created to live in circles. You weren't formed for indecision. I placed purpose in you before your birth, and I've been calling it out of you, but purpose cannot be fulfilled in delay. Your destiny is not waiting for your convenience. It's waiting for your obedience. And this is the final hour I'll wait in this way. You want more clarity, But time isn't going to pause until you feel fully secure. That's not faith. That's fear asking for control. But I never called you to control. I called you to trust. And that trust begins now. Not when you feel safer, not when your circumstances are ideal. The hourglass is almost empty, and what you do in these last grains of grace will echo for eternity. You're not out of time yet. That's why I'm speaking. But you are on the edge of it. This is not a scare tactic. It's a final invitation. One step past this moment, and the clarity you long for will be replaced with consequence. Not because I'm punishing you, but because I can't hold back reality forever. Your freedom depends on what you do now. My arms are open, but they won't stay extended forever. If you refuse to move, I will not force you, but know that your inaction will shape the world around you more than you realize. The last grain of sand is about to fall, and I am waiting, not begging, but ready. This is your warning wrapped in mercy. Don't wait until it becomes memory. Move. To be. Obey. Choose. Because the hourglass will not flip again. There has never been a moment I stepped away from you. Even in your wandering, I remained near. Even when you cursed me in frustration, when your choices contradicted everything I whispered to your heart, I still stood at the edge of your pain, waiting, guarding, covering. You have no idea how many unseen forces I blocked, how many traps were dismantled before you even woke. I've carried you through deserts of loneliness, storms of shame, and valleys carved by betrayal. I pulled you from pits that you thought were graves. I breathed strength into you when you were ready to give up. I poured out my presence when all you offered me was pieces of yourself buried beneath fear. But now, we've reached the threshold where my carrying must become your walking. Not because I've grown weary of you, but because continuing to carry someone who refuses to stand only turns grace into enablement. You've mistaken the comfort of my rescue as permission to stay reckless. You cry out when the flames rise, but keep walking back into the same fire I already pulled you from. And I tell you this now, not in anger, but in truth. I did not rescue you to watch you self-sabotage again and again while calling it struggle. I didn't restore you just so you could flirt with destruction and expect me to keep shielding you from the burns. You are not weak. You are resisting. You are not trapped. You are choosing. And each time you return to what I delivered you from, you teach your soul to tolerate bondage and label it survival. But I am a God of freedom, not maintenance. I came to bring you out, not to stand beside you while you go back in. You've cried out for me to move in your life, to break through, to open doors. But how can I bless ground you keep scorching with compromise? I want to elevate you, but you must stop sabotaging the foundation I've been building beneath your feet. I cannot keep dragging you out of fires you're willingly lighting. My heart aches when you run back into what I already gave you strength to leave. I see the ache in your spirit. I see the war behind your eyes, the part of you that wants to rise and the part that's still chained to the familiar pain. But you cannot move forward while holding hands with your past. You cannot walk in freedom while keeping the scent of smoke in your lungs. I know it's hard. I know there are memories that haunt and habits that scream. But I am stronger than every shadow. I am deeper than every scar. And I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to stop justifying staying where I already tore the veil. The chains are broken, yes. But if you sit in their pieces long enough, you'll convince yourself they still hold you. I'm calling you out, not because I've given up, but because I love you too much to let you stay at war with yourself. But hear me clearly. I will not continue to pour out strength where surrender is missing. I will not keep sending fire to a heart that keeps dousing it in disobedience. My glory is too precious to be mishandled. My presence too holy to be treated like a safety net for cycles. If you want me to carry you into the next season, you must first let go of everything that keeps dragging you back to the places where your soul was breaking. I am not the God of halfway rescue. I finish what I start. But I will not carry someone into victory who refuses to let go of the defeat they've grown used to. This is not the end. Unless you choose to stay here, I still have more for you. But you must walk away from the fire. Not tomorrow. Now. You've confused my mercy with indifference, my patience with permission, and my silence with tolerance. But none of these are true. I have watched you turn away so many times, not with rebellion in your eyes, but with distraction in your heart. You don't ignore me out of hatred. You simply treat my presence as something that will always be available the moment you decide you're ready. But that's the lie that breaks me the most. This belief that I exist only when it's convenient, that I'll always remain where you left me, waiting in the background of your life like an auction. Not the answer. I'm not a spare key. I'm not an accessory to your dreams. I'm not an occasional fire to warm your heart on cold nights. I am the beginning and the end, the author of your very breath, and when you treat me like a backup plan, your soul slowly starves while your mind believes you're safe. What you feel as me being there is not evidence of unlimited delay. It's the weight of my love that's lingered long beyond what's reasonable. And yes, I've waited. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I've stood quietly near, even when your attention wandered, even when your heart grew cold, even when you made space for everything but me. But child, even eternal love has an appointed hour. And what pierces me is not your weakness. It's your assumption that I'll always extend time. You think grace is endless in opportunity, when in truth, grace is endless in power, but limited in invitation. I've sent you warnings not as punishments but as wake-up calls. It was me reaching for you. Each uncomfortable moment a nudge from heaven. But you hit snooze. I did it again. And every time you do, the moment you were born for fades a little more into the background. It's why I weep, because I see who you could become, what you could carry, who you could reach, if you'd only stop gambling with delay. I'm not keeping record of your sins. I already paid for them. What breaks me is seeing the weight I carried on the cross mean so little to you in the present. You say you love me, but you don't make room for me. You say I'm your Lord, but your life still bows to fear, pride, and the hunger for control. And I'm not shaming you. I'm revealing the fracture, the aching gap between your words and your walk. I still call you mine, but I will not force you to stay. I won't chase someone who treats my pursuit as predictable. I've opened doors. I've broken chains. I've redirected storms. I've whispered when you were numb, shouted when you ignored me, and stood still when you needed space. But if I keep waiting without response, I become a monument in your mind instead of a movement in your life. I am not static. I am not a statue you visit during moments of crisis. I am the living God, and I require a living, breathing, surrendering relationship, not just acknowledgement. I'm not here for your performances. I'm after your devotion. And this is why my heart aches, because I know what's coming. I see what's next. I see the danger you think you're prepared for but are not. I see the enemy sharpening lies that sound like comfort. I see the moment approaching where you will call out to me, but if your delay becomes your pattern, you might not hear me the way you once could. That's not punishment. That's the result of ignoring love long enough to forget its voice. I'm not angry. I'm torn. Because I still see the child I formed with purpose and glory. But your casual delay is writing a story I never designed. And I won't write the next chapter unless you invite me back into the narrative. I won't fight for space in a life that claims to be mine but lives as if I'm absent. I'm here now. I'm speaking. But I won't keep repeating what you refuse to act on. Choose me, not because you fear my silence, but because you finally understand that my waiting was never forever. You cried out for me to show you the way, and I did. I did it again. Not through thunder or flashing signs, but through the still conviction that stirred when you were alone. Through doors I gently shut before you could walk into harm. Through people I removed because their presence would have delayed your purpose. through the heaviness you felt when you considered things that looked good but weren't right. You called it confusion, but it was clarity you resisted. You weren't waiting on answers, you were hoping I would agree with your terms. And I don't meet on those conditions. I am not a consultant you hire to validate your preferences. I am not a passive voice on the sidelines of your life, cheering you on while you drift further from my design. I am the shepherd, and I lead. But you must follow. And following requires more than questions. It requires relinquishing control. You said, Lord, I just need to know what to do, but what you truly meant was, Lord, show me the way that doesn't cost me what I still want to keep. And that is where the disconnection has lived. Because every step I've highlighted before you required something from you: comfort, pride, familiarity, your own version of success. I didn't stay silent. I just didn't echo your expectations. That's why you called it uncertainty. That's why you assumed I wasn't speaking. But deep down, you already knew what I was asking for. You just weren't ready to release your grip. I've never failed to guide my children, but I do require yielded hearts. I give instructions that lead to life, not shortcuts that validate self. I will never send you into purpose without obedience. And what you wanted was the blessing without the brokenness, the promise without the pruning, the outcome without the process. You were looking for a path that lets you stay the same while still stepping into the new. But the new always costs the old. And until you're willing to leave behind what you think you need, you'll continue mistaking my clarity for silence. I sent answers wrapped in conviction, and you called them pressure. I opened a way that required risk, and you labeled it too uncertain. I whispered through quiet moments, and you drowned them with noise. I used discomfort to nudge you away from places you were never meant to build in, and instead of moving, you planted your feet deeper. And now you feel stuck, not because I haven't shown you the way, but because you're standing in between what I've called you to and what you're still refusing to let go. That middle ground is a wilderness of your own making. I never asked you to wander. I called you to trust. And I'm still calling, but not to the version of direction you imagined. My path requires sacrifice, but it also carries my presence. You cannot have one without the other. If you want me to guide you, then follow me without delay. That means acting on the instruction I already gave. That means laying down the plan you keep revising in your own mind. That means moving, even when it feels unfamiliar. You've prayed for me to make the next step clear, and I have, but it's covered in surrender. That's why you hesitate. That's why you keep asking again. But I won't change the path to fit your reluctance. I love you too much to lie to you. I will pretend there's another route. There isn't. My way is narrow, but it leads to life. Your way is wide, but it leads to endless circles. So, stop asking for signs you've already received. Stop delaying decisions you already understand. You're not confused, you're convicted. That's me. That's how I lead. Not always with lightning, but with truth that demands a response. Walk in it, even trembling, because that trembling is holy. And that obedience, even small, is how you finally leave behind the path that never truly belonged to you. You stood at the altar of decision again and again, and each time I extended peace that surpasses what your mind could grasp. Not as a feeling, but as a foundation. Not as an escape, but as a covering. I reached out with calm for your chaos, stillness for your spinning thoughts, rest for your relentless striving, but you hesitated. Not because my peace wasn't real, but because releasing your pride felt like too high cost. I saw it clearly, how you held on to the narratives you crafted to protect yourself, how you wore your strength like armor, even when it became too heavy to bear. You called it survival. You said you needed time. But I saw the truth beneath the surface. You were afraid of who you'd be without the pride that shielded you from the vulnerability you never allowed. Pride didn't look like arrogance in you. It looked like self-preservation. It whispered, "No one will defend you if you let go." It told you you'll lose control if you surrender. But all that pride has done is keep you trapped in a cycle of silent suffering. It's made you fight battles I already won. It's made you hide from healing I already made available. And that pain you carry, that aching, gnawing unrest you've learned to live with, wasn't supposed to stay this long. It lingered because you fed it with your refusal to let me be the one to carry what you were never meant to handle alone. You've made decisions from that wounded place, spoken from it, built identity around it, and defended it as if it defined your worth. But I never asked you to perform. I never needed your strength. I never placed the burden of perfection on your shoulders. I simply asked for the truth, the honesty to admit that you're tired of pretending, the humility to say, I can't do this anymore without you. But instead of that confession, you buried yourself deeper in appearances, in roles, in routines that kept you too busy to confront the cracks in your spirit. And I watched, not in frustration but in deep grief, because I knew what peace could have done in you. I knew how it would have unraveled the tightness in your chest, how it would have mended the fragments behind your smile, how it would have restored the joy you lost so long ago that you forgot what it felt like. I wasn't offering temporary relief. I was offering a holy exchange. But you wanted healing without vulnerability, strength without surrender, comfort without letting go. And that's not how my peace works. My peace flows where pride is laid down. It invades the empty places. It fills what's yielded, not what's guarded. That's why you felt me near but not felt breakthrough, because you gave me access only to the areas you deemed safe, not to the wounds that needed me most. And I'm still standing here, arms open, ready to offer the same exchange. I haven't retracted my invitation. I haven't withdrawn my offer. But I will not force you to drop what you still defend. I won't wrestle with your will. I won't compete with your coping. I will only fill what's open. So, I ask you now, gently but urgently, when will you stop clinging to what continues to drain you? When will you stop protecting what's poisoning you? When will you lay down your defense and receive the peace I already paid for? You're not too far. You're not too broken. But you do need to choose. I never withheld peace. You've withheld your surrender. And until you open your hands, I cannot place in them what's been waiting all along. Drop it. Not with shame, but with faith. Let the weight go. Let the pride die. Let the pain be replaced. You've tried long enough your way. And now let me give you mine. You've been crying out for breakthrough, pacing through frustration, repeating prayers with growing desperation, wondering why things aren't shifting. You feel like the ground beneath you is cemented, like the heavens have gone quiet, like your life is suspended in a slow, stifling pause. But what you're calling delay is not a withholding from me. It's a result of disobedience. Not blatant rebellion, no, but quiet resistance wrapped in delay. You're not stuck because I haven't spoken. You're stuck because I have, and you haven't moved. The truth is, I already gave the direction. I whispered it when the world was quiet. I confirmed it when you asked again. I placed it in front of you in ways you couldn't deny. But you hesitated. You hesitated because it didn't look safe. Because it didn't come with a detailed plan. Because it required more from you than you thought you could give. You called it caution. I call it reluctance to obey. You want movement, but not if it stretches you. You want growth, but not if it means letting go. You want answers, but only if they align with your preference. And now you're asking me to do something, when I'm standing where I told you to be, waiting on you. I've already released the instruction that unlocks the next season. You're praying for me to make the way clear, but clarity often only comes after obedience, not before. You want confirmation, but you've been given conviction. And conviction, when ignored, turns into confusion. That's why you feel lost. Not because I left, but because you stopped walking when I said, go. Your delay has become a wall. You keep circling the same mountain, wondering why it's not moving. But mountains don't move when you're disobeying the direction to walk around them. A rhythm of heaven doesn't wait for comfort to catch up. It moves with surrender. And I'm telling you now, the breakthrough you're pleading for is standing behind the door marked obedience. Not perfection. Not full understanding. Just obedience. The kind that steps forward even when the outcome is still hidden. The kind that lays down fear of failure in exchange for faith that I will catch every fall. I'm not asking you to leap into darkness. I'm asking you to trust the light I've already shown. But you've been sitting, waiting, negotiating with me, hoping I'll revise the instruction to fit your hesitation. I won't. Because what I told you was not optional. It was your path forward. And until you walk in it, you will feel stuck, not because I'm punishing you, but because I cannot bless what refuses to align. I don't multiply excuses. I multiply obedience. I will pour out oil where the vessel is turned upside down. If you want overflow, turn your life back to the posture of surrender. Do what I said. Finish what I started in you. Act on the last thing I asked. Forgive the one I told you to release. Step into the assignment I placed in your heart. Close the door I've already exposed. Cut the tie I revealed as counterfeit. Go where I said go. Speak what I told you to say. Return to what you abandoned. Leave what I never called you to. You don't need another sign. You need to obey the one I've already given. You'll be surprised how quickly the dam breaks when obedience flows. The dryness will end where surrender begins. You'll feel the shift when you finally stop praying for change and start becoming it. I'm not distant. I'm where I was when I spoke. But you've been circling me instead of following me. And I love you too much to let you think this stuck feeling is just part of the process. It's not. It's the result of partial obedience disguised as waiting. I'm not waiting. You are. And you can walk out of this season the moment you do what I already told you. Return to that moment. Revisit the instruction. And move. Because I haven't changed my mind, I'm still waiting where you stop. You've convinced yourself that you need more clarity, that you're stuck because you don't understand what I'm doing, that everything feels foggy and uncertain. But that's not the truth, child. It's not confusion. It's hesitation dressed up in spiritual language. I've already lit the way, but you've paused in front of it, pretending you can't see. I've made the next step visible, but because it doesn't look the way you imagined, because it costs more than you expected, you've labeled it unclear. But it isn't unclear. It's just uncomfortable. The moment you step, the mist will lift. You're not waiting for a vision. You're resisting my voice. And the danger in that is this. When you delay long enough, you start believing your own excuse. You begin to call what is clearly conviction nothing more than internal noise. You talk yourself out of the very thing you once knew was me. And when that happens, the enemy doesn't need to attack you directly. You're already tangled in your own indecision. Every time I ask you to move, and you stall, you train your spirit to distrust my leading. That's why you've been feeling off balance. That's why your prayers feel repetitive. Because you've been circling the same instruction, hoping I'll change it. But I don't tailor my guidance to your comfort. I don't edit direction based on your convenience. I'm not here to negotiate timelines. I'm here to lead. And leading only works when following becomes your default, not your last resort. You asked for purpose, and I gave it. You asked for guidance, and I revealed it. But purpose isn't discovered through more waiting. It's unlocked through obedience. And I've already pointed to what needs to be done. You can feel it. It hasn't left you. It's the same thing I keep bringing back up. The same door you keep walking past. The same conversation you postpone. The same healing you've avoided. You're not confused. You're convicted. And conviction is a gift, not a burden. It's the echo of my spirit refusing to let you settle. But if you continue to treat that stirring as a problem to solve instead of a call to answer, you'll remain frozen while the moments meant for movement pass you by. I'm not going to keep making it louder. I've already spoken. And the longer you delay, the more distant my voice will feel. Not because I've gone quiet, but because your obedience determines your clarity. I speak, then I wait. That's how I test the heart. And I've been waiting not as punishment but as invitation. I've given you a holy instruction, and I'm watching what you do with it. Your delay doesn't hurt me. It hinders you. It traps you in a cycle of spiritual frustration, making you feel like I've withheld something when, in truth, you've resisted what I already gave. You cannot walk in power and disobedience at the same time. You cannot move forward while standing still and calling it patience. What you call confusion is disobedience refusing to name itself. And I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying it to awaken you. I want you to live fully in what I created for you. I want you to experience the peace that comes on the other side of the risk. I want you to know the confidence that only flows through surrender. But I will not drag you into clarity. I lead, and you must follow. Stop pretending you don't know. You do. You always have. That quiet, persistent pressure in your chest. That's not confusion. That's my spirit, waiting for your yes. And when you finally say it, not with words but with action, you'll see how quickly the path opens. The fog will lift the moment your feet move. So move. Don't ask me for another word. Act on the one I already gave. You've told yourself that waiting a little longer won't hurt, that postponing this one decision is harmless, that surely there's still time. But I see what you cannot. I see the ripple effect that begins with every delay. I see how one more pause opens the door wider for compromise to creep in, for distractions to tighten their grip, for the fire in your spirit to flicker into a dangerous dullness. You think waiting buys you safety, but in truth, it is the costliest decision you can make in this hour. The price of hesitation is never visible right away. It collects quietly, invisibly, until suddenly you realize you've lost things you didn't even know were at risk. Your discernment begins to erode. Your appetite for truth begins to fade. The passion that once burned in you begins to feel like a memory instead of a reality. And before you recognize it, the delay has built a distance between us that you never intended to create. That's the danger, not that you walked away, but that you drifted so slowly you couldn't feel the shift. I warned you not because I'm angry, but because I love you too deeply to let you underestimate the consequences of postponement. This is not about fear, it's about reality. When I speak, I do so not only for today's sake, but for the sake of everything your tomorrow holds. What feels like a small decision now echoes through time. Your obedience has impact far beyond your life. And your delay carries weight not only for you, but for those I've assigned to your influence. Souls are connected to your yes. Freedom is linked to your surrender. The delay is never isolated. It always ripples. I'm not trying to pressure you. I'm revealing the weight of this window. Because each moment you stall, the atmosphere around you begins to shift. Grace is not a license to remain inactive. It's a sacred chance to move before consequences fall. And the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes to feel my prompting clearly. Not because I stop loving you, but because your heart becomes desensitized through repeated resistance. That's what's at stake now. You're not just risking opportunities, you're risking sensitivity to my spirit. And if that fades, everything else becomes easier to compromise. The enemy knows this. That's why he doesn't tempt you to renounce me. He just tempts you to delay me. Because he knows that every delayed obedience eventually creates cracks where deception can enter. And I cannot protect what you willingly open to darkness. Not because I lack power, but because I will not violate your freedom. This is where love honors choice, and choice has consequence. Every word I've spoken has been to position you for safety, for destiny, for fullness, but I will not force you into what I've prepared. I have given you this moment, not as another casual chance, but as a divine turning point. And I must tell you this with soberness. If you ignore this one, the price on the other side will be heavier than you expect. Not just in missed blessings, but in the erosion of what once kept you anchored. You are not invincible to delay. Time is not limitless, and what you do next will shape the landscape of your spirit. Don't trade tomorrow's peace for today's hesitation. Don't assume that what feels small now will remain small. Delay always grows. It doesn't stay still. And I have too much planned for you to let delay become your master. This is not the time to negotiate. This is not the hour to stall. This is your moment to move, with urgency, with courage, with surrender. Because if you don't, the cost will not be in what you lose today. It will be in what you were meant to carry but never reached. And that, child, is too high a price. Choose movement now, before delay becomes regret. I'm calling. You still have time, but not much. My arms have caught you in moments you didn't even cry out. My grace has wrapped around you when guilt pressed in so hard you couldn't lift your head. I was there when you broke under the weight of your decisions, and I whispered hope when shame screamed failure. I never looked at your mistakes and saw disqualification. I saw opportunity to reveal how deep my love goes. Every fall you took, I didn't turn my face away. I lifted you when you collapsed in silence. I covered you when others condemned you. I've never been scared of your sin, nor surprised by your stumbles. But hear me clearly now. Mercy was never meant to become your excuse. I gave it so you could rise, not so you could remain where you are. I extended it so you would respond, not so you could continue repeating what's breaking you. You've confused my mercy with a permission slip, thinking if I forgave you once, I'll always overlook the choices you refuse to confront. But child, mercy opens a door. It doesn't remove the requirement to walk through it. Mercy is what stopped the consequence from crushing you. But response is what builds the life I called you to. You've leaned so heavily on my forgiveness that you've stopped listening to my voice. And I cannot let you think this is acceptable. Grace was never intended to be a blanket to hide under while you live divided. It's the invitation to transformation. And transformation requires your participation. You don't earn my love. That's already given. But you activate the life I've spoken over you through your obedience. My mercy pulled you from the edge, but now I'm asking, what will you do with the ground I've placed under your feet? Will you just stand there, repeating the same cycles, or will you finally rise into the identity I gave you before the beginning of time? You've been forgiven, but have you been changed? You've been rescued, but have you responded? Because there comes a time when receiving grace without movement becomes resistance in disguise. You keep saying, God, thank you for not giving up on me, and I receive that. But now I say to you, child, what are you doing with all I've given? I don't want lip service. I want your life. I don't want empty confessions. I want decisions that show your love in action. I didn't bring you through the fire just for you to stay close to the smoke. I didn't lift you from the pit just for you to keep glancing back at it. There is more for you, but you won't find it while sitting in the same place that mercy pulled you from. My grace rescued you, yes. But now, your response must prove that it mattered, that it meant something, that it reached deeper than your emotions and penetrated your will. Because what you do after mercy reveals whether it took root or stayed on the surface. I've already done my part. I stepped in when no one else would. I paid the cost when you couldn't. I rewrote what the enemy tried to write in stone. But I will not do for you what you refuse to do with me. I will not walk for you. I will not obey on your behalf. I will not climb into your future while you remain chained to yesterday's comforts. My mercy was never meant to keep you safe in sin. It was meant to free you from it. And now, I'm watching to see if you'll take that freedom seriously. Because if not, you'll turn mercy into a cycle. And I didn't die for cycles. I died for victory. So what will you do now? I'm still here. I'm still willing. But I need your movement. I need your agreement. I need your decision. Mercy brought you here. Only surrender will take you further. You already feel it. Even before you read these words, the stirring within you has been relentless, a silent but persistent pressure, reminding you that you've lingered too long in the place of hesitation. That weight you've carried isn't from me being distant, it's from you resisting what I've already revealed. You've asked me to speak again, to clarify, to confirm what I've already carved into your conscience. But this is the truth you must finally face. The problem isn't the clarity of my voice. It's the unwillingness of your heart. I have whispered in stillness. I have shouted through closed doors. I have sent people, patterns, and even discomfort to draw your attention. But instead of acting, you've waited, not because you didn't understand, but because you didn't want to obey without knowing what came next. But child, I don't lead by showing the whole staircase. I reveal enough for the next faithful step. And the longer you demand certainty before surrender, the longer you'll remain stuck. You've convinced yourself that you're still in prayer, still in discernment, still seeking confirmation, but I see what lies beneath that narrative. It's not discernment. It's delay. It's not spiritual caution. It's emotional occasion. You're not seeking direction anymore. You're bargaining for a different one. But I cannot adjust my calling to accommodate your comfort. I won't rewrite the blueprint simply because the path stretches your trust. You say, Lord, I'm ready, yet you wait for feelings to catch up with faith. But obedience isn't about feelings. It's about trust. And trust requires movement even when you don't feel prepared. I've already gone ahead of you. I've already cleared the way. But I cannot walk for you. That choice belongs to you alone. And if you keep asking me to repeat what I've already made clear, eventually you'll grow deaf to the truth, not because I've stopped speaking, but because your heart will harden beneath the weight of enacted revelation. Truth loses its grip on the soul when it is heard too often but never heeded. You're not in the dark. You're just standing in the middle of the light, refusing to move. And I won't keep flooding you with the same instruction just because you won't act on it. I'm a God of movement, of progression, of forward momentum. I did not breathe life into you so you could camp out at the edge of decision forever. I've stirred your spirit long enough. I've given you enough signs. I've extended enough time. And now, heaven is leaning toward you, not waiting for me to speak, but for you to finally respond. I'm not ignoring your prayers. I'm waiting for your obedience. I'm not withholding answers. I'm holding out my hand, asking why you haven't taken the one step I keep illuminating. You are not in a holding pattern because I've gone silent. You're here because you've paused in the presence of purpose, hoping I'll give you something different. But I cannot change what is perfect. The direction I've given is still the right one. You don't need a new word. You need to trust the one I already gave. And if you refuse to respond, what was once a door of invitation will become a doorway of regret. I love you enough to say this plainly. My patience has held the weight of your delays, but I will not forever accommodate what you already know needs to happen. To look within. Ask yourself honestly, what instruction have I already given that you're pretending not to hear? That's where your breakthrough begins, not with something new, but with a choice you've already delayed. And I am not the one holding things up. You are. But the good news is this. The moment you act, the momentum will return. The clarity will flood back. The presence will deepen. And you will see that I was never gone. I was simply waiting where you left me. I have not changed my mind. I'm still here. I'm still calling. But I won't repeat myself again. You've poured out your heart asking for doors to open, for heaviness to lift, for cycles to end. You've begged me to move mountains and shift circumstances, and I've heard every word. Not one tear hath been wasted, not one whisper ignored. But while your mouth cries out for breakthrough, your life clings to things that block it. You want me to come and make everything new, while holding on to patterns that have no place in the future I'm building. And that, beloved, is where the tension lies. I can't usher you into freedom while you continue choosing what chained you. Breakthrough is not a magic event. It's the collision between surrender and timing. You've asked me to break walls that you're still reinforcing. You've asked for a new chapter while rereading the pages I told you to close. You want results without repentance. You desire freedom but resist instruction. And I say this not to shame you, but to wake you from the illusion that I bless what defies me. I don't. I never have, and I never will. I don't place breakthrough on top of disobedience and call it grace. I build breakthrough on obedience, full, uncompromised, immediate obedience. You cannot serve two altars and expect my glory to rest upon you. There is no dual loyalty in this walk. I am not moved by performance. I respond to obedience. And when you keep parts of your life closed off, guarded, unsubmitted, those very areas become the delay. You wonder why nothing shifts. It's because rebellion and revival cannot dwell in the same temple. I've called you to be a living altar, but I will not consume a sacrifice you've not fully surrendered. You cry out for me to pour out favor, but you're still negotiating which parts of your life I'm allowed to touch. That's not surrender. That's resistance. And resistance, no matter how spiritual it sounds, still delays what I'm trying to release. You must understand. I want your breakthrough more than you do. I wrote it into your story before you ever asked for it. But I also wrote it into a path of purity, not convenience. If I gave it to you while you still entertained rebellion, it would crush you. Not because it's too heavy, but because your foundation couldn't carry it. I love you too much to give you something you misuse. I'll never promote what your character can't sustain. That's why I've waited. That's why I've withheld, not in punishment, but in protection. Because if I bless what is disobedient, I confirm what is destructive. I don't want to just get you there, I want you to stay there. And that means I must build you through surrender. Real surrender. The kind that walks away from what's killing your calling. The kind that breaks up with compromise. The kind that closes doors even when they are familiar. The kind that deletes what tempts and embraces what convicts. Until that surrender is real, breakthrough will remain an unanswered cry. Not because I'm cruel, but because I cannot release what would become an idol in your unyielded hands. You think I'm delaying the breakthrough. I'm not. I'm waiting for the rebellion to die. When it does, the gates will open. The things that once felt impossible will begin to move. The momentum you lost will return. The silence you've endured will break. But only when rebellion is buried in the grave of repentance. This is your moment. This is your crossroad. I won't force you to change. I will invite you. But I will not move forward while you're still entertaining what I called you to leave. Choose obedience, not out of fear, but because it's the door to everything you've asked me for. Lay down the rebellion, and you will find that the breakthrough was never far. That was simply waiting on your surrender to open the door. You keep asking me why the promise feels distant, why the shift hasn't come, why everything feels like it's moving in slow motion while you cry out for acceleration. But listen closely, child. The issue isn't the miracle. It's already moving. The breakthrough you've longed for, the answer you've wept over, the provision you've waited on. It was released the moment you cried out in faith. But what you refuse to see is that while I released it, you blocked it. Not with doubt, not with fear, but with your refusal to align. You prayed with passion but moved with resistance. You declared my name in desperation but lived like your own will still had the final say. And now you wonder why nothing has shifted, when in truth, everything already did, but you haven't stepped into the place where the miracle is waiting to meet you. I will not deliver a divine promise into a heart that insists on partial surrender. You think I'm withholding it. I'm not. I sent it, but it's waiting where I told you to go. It's hovering over the place of your obedience, not over the place of your hesitation. You keep pleading with me to open up the heavens, but the windows have already been torn wide. What you're mistaking as delay is the consequence of standing still when I called you to move. Obedience is not about impressing me. It's about unlocking the path I've already carved. Every time you refuse to act on what I've shown you, you walk in the opposite direction of what you're waiting for. and I cannot route the miracle around your disobedience just to fit your preferences. That's not how my kingdom works. You don't command miracles by emotion. You position yourself for them through surrender. I've already sent angels ahead. I've already made a way through the thickets. I've already told time to hold space for what I'm about to do. But you must meet me in the space I directed, not the one you're more comfortable with. The miracle is not late. It's on schedule. But you are lingering in places I never told you to stay. And I will not drag you into destiny. I invited you. Now you must respond. You don't need more prayer to release it. You need obedience to reach it. You keep asking for confirmation, but I already gave instruction. You want the blessing, but not the process it's attached to. You want results without rearrangement. But I am not a God who pours my glory into convenience. I place it where trust is proven. I mark locations of surrender, not rebellion. That's where your miracle is waiting. I've been trying to get you there. Through conviction, through discomfort, through divine restlessness. Every time you felt unsettled, it wasn't punishment, it was a push. A reminder that the promise is tied to a path, and the path requires you to turn away from anything I didn't author. I cannot bless what I didn't ordain. And I won't shift the miracle into places where your heart is split between me and your own understanding. That's why you feel tension, not because I am far, but because you're out of position. This isn't about striving harder. It's about obeying quicker. You don't need to work more. You need to yield more. Let go of the thing I told you to release. Say yes to the thing I asked you to pick up. Forgive the one I revealed was poisoning your soul. Walk away from the place where your spirit has been numb. You already know what it is, and I'm not repeating it again. A miracle is moving, but you must move too. You are not waiting on heaven. Heaven is waiting on your next act of trust. That act is the doorway. That act is the signal. That act is the key. Your delay doesn't stop my will, but it keeps you from walking in the fullness of it. So I say to you now, move, align, obey, and watch what was delayed come wetting like a flood into your life. You stood before doors that didn't open and assumed I was withholding something from you. You stared at unanswered opportunities and labeled them as seasons of silence or divine postponement. But the truth is harder, holier, and more loving than what you've believed. I shut them. On purpose. Not to punish, but to preserve. Not because you weren't ready in your eyes, but because I saw what waited on the other side. You've called those doors blessings, I called them traps. You saw advancement. I saw erosion. You felt overlooked. I was covering you. I blocked connections that would have cracked your foundation. I halted plans that would have planted destruction in disguise. You begged me to open what I had to seal shut because you couldn't see what I saw. And still, instead of thanking me, you questioned my timing. Instead of trusting my no, you tried to pry open what was never meant to be entered. That's not delay, child. That's protection. And you've been blaming me for not opening a way when I was the one holding it shut so you wouldn't fall. I know how convincing the door looked. I know how promising it seemed, how logical it felt. But I don't lead you by logic alone. I lead by what aligns with eternity. I've been defending your destiny in places where your desire tried to sabotage it. You thought I was late, when I was actually on time, slamming doors that were loud with temptation but hollow in purpose. You need to stop calling every closed door warfare. Not every locked place is an attack. Some are divine safeguards wrapped in rejection. You asked me to protect you, and then accused me when I did, because you couldn't recognize my hand when it was holding back instead of handing over. But now, you must stop praying for me to open what I closed out of love. You're exhausting yourself pushing against a wall I've already reinforced. That's driving you feel. It's not spiritual warfare, it's resistance to my will. And the longer you keep trying to reopen what I've sealed, the longer you'll stay outside of what I am actually preparing for you. I don't block doors to leave you without purpose. I block doors because I have better ones waiting, ones that don't just impress your eyes but ignite your calling. But you'll never find them if you keep standing in front of what's already been judged unfit for your future. What you call disappointment, I call deliverance. I delivered you from entanglements you never would have left on your own. From relationships that looked safe, but were sowing subtle destruction into your identity. From platforms that would have elevated you before you were ready to carry the weight. I did it all in mercy. And now I ask, will you let go of the handle? Will you stop asking me to reverse what I shut in love? Because the longer you mourn the door I close, the more blind you become to the one I've opened. You don't need to stand there another day. It's time to walk forward. Not just with your body, but with your agreement. With your yes. With your trust. I'm not hiding your future behind impossible tests. I'm waiting for you to release what I've already removed. That locked door isn't the loss you think it is. It's the start of your real deliverance. The beginning of your redirection. If you'll let it be. Let go now, not out of resignation but out of revelation. You've been protected more times than you've been promoted, and that, my child, is evidence of my favor. And I'll walk away from what you keep knocking on. Turn from the noise of what wasn't meant to last. Let the door stay closed. Because what's ahead doesn't require what's behind. And what I'm preparing next doesn't fit through the frame of what I've already sealed. Amen.